Karthik, maybe mute
Hi
yourself again.
everyone, welcome back to another episode of VCTV. How is everybody doing? My name is Sunny Mohanty and I'm the moderator of the show. I'm based here in Singapore and I represent LATOKEN in Singapore. So yes, welcome back to another exciting topic and episode of VCTV, which is the Venture Capital TV, and we know it's from LATOKEN. So just to give you a little bit of background about VCTV, so I've been hosting VCTV since beginning of 2020 in light of coronavirus pandemic and due to the global lockdown that happened after that. Since then, we have grown in the size of our investor community and the startup community as well. So yeah, I host it Monday to Friday, fixed time 8 p.m. We have different shows in different time zones as well. So we cover different topics, and today we're going to discuss and know more from our investors regarding the trends and investments in renewable energy and sustainability. Okay, so we have spoken about impact investments, sustainable investments before, and so do on renewable energy. But let's hear from our speakers today. What's in for 2021? We've spoken about 2020. We've seen a lot happen in 2020, but let's just hear from our speakers today. What's in for 2021? So yeah, I'm going to start with our speakers. Quick intro and background, not in any order. I'm going to start with Harsh from Our Ventures. Hi, Harsh. Welcome back on VCTV. Quick intro and background, please. Thank you.
Hi, Sonny. Glad to be back, and I love these shows which happen on a regular basis. I'm glad to meet the family back again. So my name is Harsh Shetia from Our Ventures. I have extensively worked with Fortune 50 companies, a couple unicorns, started my own startup, and currently I'm working as a venture partner with Our Ventures. I primarily help startups in scaling their business and helping them raise investments. We are a completely sector agnostic domain where we invest in fintech, health tech, AI, you name it, B2B SaaS. We invest in all the sectors, and if anyone needs any help, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Harsh, for that intro. Next, I have on my screen William from William. Hi, William. Welcome back. I see some amazing stuff, some amazing text.
I see that you are confused about my company today. So today I'm wearing different hats. Okay, so I'm representing Amazing Solar. Okay, a solar company based in KL. We are a registered PV investors in Malaysia. Okay, so we are actually undergoing our first project to build a 1.2 megawatt solar on the rooftop. Okay, of our vertical farm. All right. And we are looking at 3 more buildings, average of 1 to 1.2 megawatt each. And we are hoping to bid for a 50 megawatt solar farm this year. So we are trying to get one large-scale solar project in Malaysia this year. So looking forward to share with you what's happening in the solar industry in Malaysia. Thanks.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, William. Yes, I wanted to know what's happening in the solar space as well, because that's a space been affected in a good way because of the pandemic. Next, I have Flo from Germany. Hi, Flo. Welcome back.
Hi, Sonny. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Florian. I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. So I've started in the software space. I've successfully managed a few tech startups in mid-Silicon Valley. I've started a investment company. Our focus has always been sustainable investments, mostly solar energy. So that's why I think today's panel discussion is the right spot for me. And yeah, recently I've started a cryptocurrency called NECO. It's a stable currency for the common good. We provide universal basic income, generate profits, and protect the climate. So our vision is to build a new financial system that serves the people and the planet. Thank you for the invite, Sonny. And I'm happy to be part of this session today.
Welcome, Flo. Yes, I think lots happening in that space of cryptocurrency when it comes to us building a stable coin, which is backed to an asset class. So yes, I mean, lots to hear from you as well, because I see a lot of momentum in the space as well myself. Thank you so much, Flo, and yeah. Thank you so much. Next, I have Karthik. Hi, Karthik. Welcome back. How is Dubai with the lockdown?
Thank you so much. Dubai is wonderful, and it feels good to be back on the show once again. Episode number 62, I guess. Yeah, it is 62, if I've not forgotten. I represent a couple of family offices based out of UK, Yorkshire, and a venture fund based out of Qatar. I was associated with the Saudi fund, but no longer. And primarily active in the health tech, in fintech, in a lot of edutech spaces. Been involved in a couple of entrepreneurial stints with e-commerce businesses and head a large retail business as well. That's about me. Happy to help anybody who requires help in the startup space. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Karthik, for that. Next, I have Gary. Hi, Gary. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? And it's great to be here as always. So, yeah, I wanted to. Yesterday, Sunny, I had an interesting conversation because of VCTV.
Right.
I actually had a conversation with a guy who's from Dubai, who is worth $45 billion. He's one of the Bitcoin whales, and it was because of VCTV. Karthik, a guy named Kerman.
Yeah.
Is from Dubai. I don't know if you ever heard the name, but anyhow, because of VCTV. So anyhow, my name's Gary Fowler. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love artificial intelligence and quantum computing. So I've done 2 unicorns. I was on the original management team of Click Software and also Eva.ai, which is a unicorn that I started almost 5 years ago. Wow, time flies, actually. And so Gsd Venture Studios is my company today. Get You Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio curating companies from all over the world. We have 3 African companies, which I'm proud to say, from as far off as Rwanda, German companies, Russian, Belarusian, etc. And we're bringing them to Silicon Valley, using it as support to the rest of the world. So great to see my friends here today.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary. And perfect. We're all set with introductions. I just want to introduce Maxime. Hi, Maxime, my co-moderator of the show. How are you?
Hi, everyone. So I suggest it will be enough comprehensive and insightful meeting. So my name is Maxim Misenov, and I represent LATOKEN Russia. So thank you, Sonia.
Yes, perfect. All set. Okay, great. So let's start with the questions. Before that, I just want to give you a little bit of background about the topic, which is about renewable energy and sustainability. So green energy, as we know, becomes more accessible every year because the industry continues to gain support from the government, from the private sector, from everywhere. People want to be eco-friendly in their personal lives and support companies that use sustainable business practices. Industry experts that use sustainable industry experts should learn about which renewable energy trends to expect in 2021 to understand what future holds, because this is the need of the hour. We need to know now. We saw the virus impact last year, so this year we're going to talk about what's the trends for the future and what are the experts going to focus attention in terms of investments. So coronavirus also affects this industry in a bigger way. Like we're going to hear William talk about his projects in solar energy. And the solar industry is no exception as well. So less travel, more self-sufficiency, and documented stay-at-home trend has led to an upswing for the building and building material industry. People staying at home, like we are all staying at home, looking after their homes, which is obviously will benefit not only builders, but also streaming services like this, e-commerce, interior design, and solar panel. I think we have started investing in a home because this is our home office right now, where we stay, live, and also work. So yeah, so that's about the background of the topic that we're going to discuss. Let's start with some opening remarks in sustainable investment and renewable energy. And my first speaker would be Flo.
Yeah, thank you, Sani. So as I like to say, I think, the corona crisis is a beginning of a new age. I call it the age of health and sustainability. So these are the 2 core parts I think that the virus shows us we have to focus on, living a healthy lifestyle and living a sustainable lifestyle. So I think what we will see in this year, as the corona craze will hopefully go down a little, the vaccines will start working or not, but at least I think the we will be able to focus again on the topics. I think solar energy is definitely one of the most important sources of energy. And I believe that, in this year we will see going back to normality, but also in a few areas, but also not in total. The industry is changing. And so as the industry is changing, there will be new things that come up, new companies. And I think now couldn't be a better time to invest in something that is sustainable, because that's where the money will go in future, I believe. So this year, I think that we will see an increase in investments in renewable energy. We will see a tremendous increase in investments into anything that's to do with healthcare. So in my opinion, these are the two spots where people should focus on this year. This is a big trend, a global trend that we're seeing.
Thank you. Of course, health is another space. We have to make our health system sustainable to have a sustainable life. Okay, thank you so much, Flo, for those opening remarks. Next, I have Harsh.
Hi. So definitely environmental sustainability is quite crucial, right? So I'm sure in the beginning during the COVID lockdowns, we had reports across the world, right? In Venice, people could actually see dolphins roaming around. Back over here in India and Mumbai, a lot of we could see dolphins around the Mumbai coastline. We could see a lot of wild animals, kind of free. We could see new quality of birds, right? So environment sustainability is definitely a major criteria which we need to look at. Not just healthcare is definitely an important part of it, but if we take care of the environment better, healthcare will benefit by itself as a resultant benefit itself. So that is why it's extremely important to take care of that, particularly considering the context when the consumerism in the last few decades has gone so sky high. It's the degree at which the environment is being polluted is extremely high. That's why we need to kind of ensure that we are living harmoniously, not just with ourselves, but with the rest of the ecosystem as well, because the entire ecosystem is dependent on one another. So it's extremely crucial to understand how the environmental sustainability works. At the same time, working on how renewable energy works as well, right? Solar power is being touted as the future, but there are a lot of limitations with solar power as well. So we need to do some solid, thorough research to ensure that solar power is the true future that we have deemed it out to be.
Great. Thank you so much, Harsh, touching upon solar energy as well. I think that brings me to William. William, I think.
Sorry. Okay, thanks. Right, I've been exposed to several opportunities in renewable energy last year, as I'm stuck in KL and I can't travel. So we were actually invited to explore opportunities in biogas or biomass, we call it, biothermal, and of course solar. And after reviewing the three business model and of course the impact on the environment and sustainability, we decided to go with solar. All right. The most important factor is solar is actually very clean, very straightforward. Okay, and based on the study that we find before we actually invest in it is for average of 3.5 hours of sunlight a day, we are able to provide the enough energy, okay, to actually power certain industry. So, for example, if you look at our vertical farm, okay, with a 1.2 megawatt on the rooftop, we are able to provide at least 3 hours to 5 hours, depending on the usage of electricity a day, and that will result in substantial savings. Okay, so if you compare solar to biomass and biothermal, okay, biomass is we still need to burn something, we still need to recycle things, we need to burn rubbish, right? So that process will create a lot of pollution or waste, right? And if you look at biothermal, we need to dig into probably 50 to 100 feet deep to be able to extract the heat, right? And that process will also kill a lot of plants, a lot of trees that need to chop down to actually build the infrastructure to build that biothermal facilities, right? So at the end, we finalize on solar, okay, and we believe that solar is the next good opportunity to be in. right? And of course, our government gives a lot of incentive for solar players. We have the green tax. We have the other than that, we also have the capital allowance claim, right? So our government is also encouraging it, right? Happy to share more later. Thanks.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to hear more from you, William. Next, I have Karthik on my screen. Karthik, hi.
Hi. So I have a very different view to this entire thing. Pandemic. For once, this is not an industry that has only been transformed by pandemic, but over the last 20 years, it's gone through sustainable change in its entire genesis. And I think over the last 4 years, things that have really mattered is not only about getting into the renewables energy space and sustainability, but about optimizing cost for renewable energy because it has to be made affordable. More importantly, about energy storage, which is where energy storage and energy transformation is what is being built into. And a lot more research has been done in terms of chemical base, which is the hydrogen route to sustainable energy. A lot of businesses across the world, specifically in sub-Saharan Africa and Middle East, have been talking about renewable energy from the solar route. But of late, a lot of work is happening in East Africa and the subcontinent India on the tidal energy, and which is where a lot of government investments is also going in. Saudi Arabia on its southern coast is investing approximately around $8 to $12 billion on the renewable energy from the tidal source, because that is where a lot of oceanic activity is bringing in energy. So we would be continuously watching. The investment bucket in this space is significantly high, certainly for small ticket investors to get into, and regulatory structures are so stringent that it requires government participation. While startups might be interested or keen to build an ecosystem to get into the services and the component sector in this business, but primarily getting contract from a government to win an energy creation or an energy development source is going to take a little while for startups, and it would require massive investments.
Interesting insights, Karthik. Thank you so much. Great. Now I have Gary. Hi, Gary. Your opening remarks, please. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Sunny. You cut.
Yeah. So basically, what's your opening remarks for this?
Oh, yeah, sure, absolutely. So I thought you said something different. So I mean, we're in a unique time, right? We've got the population increases. Population of the planet Earth over the last 100 years has quadrupled. So there's a lot more pressure on the system. We understand the devastating effects of fossil fuel can have, pollution. We understand that from rising temperatures around the world, those kind of things. So we start to understand our vulnerabilities, and now we need to look at the future. So what we're really interested in is things like lithium fluoride, which is for the system to make batteries much more efficient, chemical batteries. But it's not just about sunlight. It's about wind. It's about rain, tide, geothermal. In fact, there's only 2 countries in the world, Norway and Iceland, today are 100% renewable. So the challenge is to make the laws more interesting. For instance, in Florida, you would think, it's a sunshine state, but there's actually some laws that they've changed a bit recently that have negatively impacted having solar panels on your house. So imagine having 300 days a year of sun and having restrictive laws. So part of it's changing the politics and the laws. The other thing is increasing the efficiency of the battery storage system, so it makes sense, and reducing the cost and incentives. So we're in a unique time. As over the last year, we've understood our vulnerabilities. We understand that we need to make some changes. And as I've said before, the first time in the last 30 years that you've been able to see the Himalayan mountains. So we know we can make a difference. We really need today to look at not only the collection, but the efficiencies of the systems that we have in place so that we can optimize them. It's one thing to collect it. It's another thing to have a grid that supports it. I mean, think about California. There are blackouts, and it's like toilet paper we talked about. It's like we have quantum computers. We can't get a roll of toilet paper. In California, you have blackouts in the hotbed of technology for the world. It's crazy. So we need to understand that our infrastructure has to be optimized and made more efficient, because we need to be able to distribute it better. We need to have more efficient systems put in place. We need to invest in that infrastructure. So it's not about one thing. It's as the Germans say, Gestalt. The sum of the parts equal the whole, and that's where we are today. And we're really excited about it. Imagine artificial intelligence as part of the mix, being able to understand how to route to get the right power at the right place at the right time, and as efficiently as possible.
Great. Thank you so much, Gary. So great opening remarks from all the speakers today. So I just want to know from the speakers that we have here today, what are the different types of sustainable investing for 2021? And is sustainable investing a short-term investment practice or has changed in 2021 because of 2020, and it's going to be something more long-term than before? Harsh, over to you, please.
Sure. So sustainable energy is definitely the future, right? It's definitely going to be long term. It's not a short-term thing. And the way that the current technology is poised, we still have a long way to go. So right now, the first focus should be to do a lot of research, development, and a lot of early stage startups who can, do a lot of chemical processing, etc., and identify and refine the products, right? Gary was mentioning a point about lithium ions, right? So lithium-ion battery, the biggest supplier of that technology was China up until now. So across the world, different countries need to get into that, get into the lithium-ion processing and better ensure that those batteries are working better. At the same time, even for solar, right, you need to do a lot of processing for silicon as well. How do you process it into silicon? Get those chips to be made more efficient. A lot of improvements are required. So it's not a short-term game. It's definitely going to require a long-term horizon. So if you have investors who are looking for a very short-term thing, put in money for 3 years, 5 years, get it out by that time, it will be very difficult with that kind of mindset. It has to be a long-term investment in this game.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So next I have, Flo, over to you. So Harsh said there's going to be a long-term investment, and I agree. So let's discuss about the types of sustainable investing that we can see for 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, on one side, I agree that energy is an important important industry to focus on. But I believe, recently when you look at what's really causing the most problems for the planet, is the way we produce food, our agriculture. That's the main contributor to climate change, main emissions of carbon dioxide and of methane, soil pollution, water pollution. So I think this is really the area where we need to focus on changing our agriculture, because that will have a much bigger impact than just, for example, energy and transportation. Nevertheless, I think energy is important. And as William said, I find especially solar is the cleanest source of energy. All the others, you're typically harvesting a secondary form of energy. Water is in the end also energy. It comes from the sun, or wind. Originally caused by the sun. And if you look at nature, what all the plants do, they harvest the energy of the sun. So why can't we do the same? So so I believe agriculture is a key issue to address to improve sustainability, and that's something everyone can participate. Even if you're not investing, you can change your diet. That's the most effective way to improve the situation. Then energy and transportation will be, in my opinion, second.
Right.
And last but not least, the third area that I would consider is water, because that's an important resource. We are using a lot of energy right now, especially in places like Dubai, to do salinate waters, or in Malta, where I live from time to time, to desalinate water, costing a lot of energy. Different technologies. We have a lot of pollution. We have to get rid of the plastic in the ocean. So there's a lot of space here for improvements in terms of technology that help us to become more sustainable.
Yeah, thank you so much, Flo, for that. Next, I want to move to Karthik. Karthik, so do you see a lot of investments in the space of water energy in Dubai, and If you could share
So
some
I
details.
agree with I agree with Flo and Harsh completely in terms of this being a long gestation business. I wouldn't expect anybody to get into the business for a quick 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, 4x multiplier, 8x multiplier, or people to become billionaires overnight. I doubt if anybody would become a billionaire overnight because most of the governments in this part of the world are talking about a vision 2030, vision 2050, vision 2070, which means this has to go hand in hand with the government's vision. For example, Clean Dubai is a vision that is being built towards 2030. And one of the businesses that we are in has already invested 60 million into a lithium-ion battery recycling unit, which is primarily able to convert around 8 tons of lithium-ion battery per day into recyclable lead ingots and water, which typically doesn't pollute the environment. One of our sister concerns and entities is already getting into clean ocean tech, which is primarily with so many tourists coming into this part of the world, 60 million tourists in this part of the world, the oceans typically get a lot polluted. Government sponsoring a lot of startups in this space to take over or own a part of a geography or own a part of a shore and clean it on a perpetual basis. And there's a lot of funding coming in from philanthropic organizations. But from a sustainable technology and sustainable investment point of view, I think clean water and desalination is again going to be a future because water scarcity is something that this region, especially Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa, is staring at from a 10 to 20-year perspective. But again, investments in this space, Sonny, I would doubt if startups would be willing to invest in this space. Startups would be willing to invest in technologies that support these sectors, but the investments in this sector would primarily come in either from government or from large entities that already have deep pockets and as a part of a CSR initiative would love to take this route to business. So yeah, I wouldn't say that from a VC point of view, one would be very bullish, but from a business and sustainable point of view, investments in this space is drawing, this space is drawing massive dollars, massive.
Right. Thank you, Karthik. That brings me to William. William, so basically you mentioned about this project in solar energy. So is it like one of your portfolios?
Yes, and if you talk about the visibility of the project, it's definitely long term. Okay, based on our projection, even at the most conservative figure, okay, it takes at least 9 years to recoup the investments. And if you look at depending on the scale and depending on how much we are selling the electricity for, okay, it might drag to 12 to 13 years to recoup the investments, okay? But because of our government incentive in terms of green tax allowance and also capital allowance, yes, you're able to recoup your investment. If you have enough chargeable and taxable income, you can recoup everything within 2.5 to 3 years. So this gives a lot of large corporations, especially those who are in the heavy industry, okay, the manufacturing, right? Those who keep on polluting the environment, they will have to invest in solar related or renewable energy to actually offset the carbon footprint that they produce. And echoing what Flo has mentioned just now about agriculture, the reason why we go into vertical farming is we are able to save 90-95% of land use, arable land, and also at least 95% of water, right? So if you look at how the typical normal farm, when they water the plantation or even their farm, they just use water to spray all over the place, right? It's not focused, right? And the efficiency or the absorption of the water is not consistent, right? Therefore, you need to use more water and more water, right? And if you look at the farms for feedstock, okay, they consume a lot of land, they consume a lot, or they produce a lot of waste, right? So that's the reason why you can see a lot of environmentalists or even the impact investment are promoting plant-based food. Okay, so that will reduce carbon footprint as well. Okay, and the usage of land, right? So I think in the long run, you look at all the governments are pushing towards the vision like Singapore 2030, right? By 2030, Singapore hope to produce 30% of their own vegetables and food in Singapore, right? So being such a small country, how are they going to achieve that? That's the reason why they also invest in vertical farms in Singapore itself, right? So we are not far behind. So I'm hope maybe perhaps we are faster than them, right? Thank you.
Competition. All right. Thank you
No,
so
we're
much.
not competing with Singapore government. We are waiting for their investment from the
Oh,
GIC.
got it. That was-
We're not competing with them.
All right. No, it's just a joke. Thank you, William, so much for that. Gary, over to you.
Yeah, so in terms of the, what we're looking at, so I said lithium fluoride. There are different types of batteries that are coming out that are a lot better than lithium ion. Lithium fluoride could last as 6 times longer than extended lithium ion. It's a chemical battery. The efficiency, as I said, of the systems that are out there today using optimization algorithms and artificial intelligence to distribute more effectively. We're interested in that. And, if we look at really where the renewable energy is, we get everything from sunlight to geothermal to tides, waves. I mean, different applications. We're interested in it if it has artificial intelligence and if it's making a major impact. And I forget who said it, maybe Kartik or Harsh, but the challenge is we got to make sure that laws in that particular area are really conducive to the company growing. So, one of the things we look at is what kind of laws and are they restrictive or not. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. Like I said, the infrastructures are so antiquated in places like the U.S. that we had better get those up to speed first and look at them so that we can really take advantage of the system. So,
hey, Gary, since you're an expert in AI, by the way, out of this, if you had something, if something is being done in the area of, building robots to clean up oceans, to, pick up garbage at beaches, do we have technologies that can help with that?
Yeah, no, I hear about technology like that out there today. It's happening. Flow. I mean, what's happening right now is there's a spread of all these technologies like artificial intelligence verticals. They're really applying in all kinds of different ways, like drones to indicate where it is, and then deploying vessels to go out and clean up that are all robotic cleanup. So it's happening. It's all part of the whole movement. Literally, it's across the board. So it's not just for cleanup. It's about it's the same technology that's out there, for instance, for the military or for other types of surveillance. So, but what's happening now is becoming more integrated compared to what it was before. So yes, there's a focus on it. I'm also seeing things like companies like BioSolvent in South America that are coming up with some interesting and innovative ways to get rid of the pollution using organic compounds and things. Now, imagine deploying those on a vessel to go out, deploy it, suck it up, bring it in, and take that oil, if you will, and then wring it out and be able to use it. Not saying fossil fuels are the way to go, but it's not going to change in the near term. So there are some interesting applications out there. So, but I'm interested in it. Real interested.
Thank you, Gary.
Any other questions from anybody to Gary, or shall I move to the next question? So my next question is. Oh, okay. No. Go ahead.
Thank you, Sonia. So, Gary, it's first of all regarding some technologies, some progressive technologies in energy sector. So, and approximately 1 month ago, I heard about some news that the Estonian company announced some digital platform, and this digital platform helps to connect some businesses, person with landowners, and for reaching out some needed and requirement level of carbon offset in the atmosphere. So, and my question for you is, what types of the most dominant technologies and applied tools will be in the nearest future in energy sector?
I'm not sure if you're asking me, but I missed like every other word. I don't know if you guys I could hear it.
Yeah, it's breaking up. Sorry, Maxim, can you repeat the question again?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Also, to give answer to Maxim's questions, there are 95 to 97 robots on the coast of Saudi Arabia that are working 6-7 days a week to make sure the ocean is not polluted, and they dig out almost 3 tons of garbage every day from the ocean. So already Saudi Arabia has already deployed this technology on its shores.
Saudi Arabia. Oh, wow.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Even in India,
Saudi's also built around 11 desalination plants that work without human beings, completely automated, capable enough of feeding almost 12 to 14 million people on a daily basis with a daily water supply. So yeah, it's already underway.
So on what technologies is based? It's like AI on ML, machine learning. It's for what we may achieve this?
I wouldn't know, but I can find out for you because I know that companies have invested in this, and government of Saudi is very, very bullish on this. I'm happy to find out for you. Happy to find out.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody? So what's? Sorry, Maxim, go ahead, please. You have another question?
Yeah, thank you. Sonia, there's some troubles with connection. Okay, so also some question regarding some investment opportunities here in the energy sector. So let's imagine that we have some bubble, like a chart, and one of the bubble is energy sector, and what will be force and drive this sector in frames of the key drivers? What will be? What it will be? Yeah.
So
This is my question.
key drivers for the energy sector, William.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't really get your question. It's a bit blurry. What are you trying to ask?
It means if we will compare with other industries, yeah, energy and resource industry. So what will be the key drivers from this, and how it will be impact on the and force and stimulate the industry?
You mean okay? If you talk about how renewable energy can the key driver is the government, okay? Because as I mentioned, all renewable energies requires high capex, right? And high capex means the ROI will be very stretched to probably 10, 15 years, right? So if you look at solar, most of the contract awarded that we can connect back to the grid, national grid, is 21 years concession, right? So if we factor in the 21 years of cash flow and also the return, then it's justifiable, right? And without the green tax investment allowance and without the capital allowance deduction, then it will become very, very expensive for any investors or manufacturers to adopt renewable energy. Okay, because at this moment, natural gas, coal, right, are still the main energy provider. Right. Thanks.
and to additionally add, in addition to the government, the academic institutions.
Sorry?
Those who are not speaking, Harsh is going to speak now. Please, others, put yourselves on mute, please. Thank you. Harsh, go ahead.
So, in addition to the government, I think the academic institutions play a huge role as well, right? So, I'm connected with a few academic incubators in Mumbai, like IIT Bombay, which is one of the premier institutes in the world, and Somaya College, which is another premier incubator over here. So, I see all these fancy projects, cleaning up all the garbage from the ocean and all these other products are there. But because they don't get the funding and they are unable to sustain and go to the next level to get into the mass production, right? So that is where these academic institutions, these engineering institutions, they will play a very solid role in addition to the government to, kind of truly take it to the next level. Without which private investment, I don't see getting into that because private investors are very on a short-term mindset. That is why these academic institutions play grants like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. They'll play also a very critical role in trying to ensure that we have a stable inflow of funds for this sector.
Absolutely. So I think adding on to Harsh, now I'm jumping in because I don't know when will I be muted and when will my connection die off. So let me jump in. I think adding on to Harsh, what's critical is also about the cost optimization of these. Everybody today comes up with fancy means of renewable energy, but more often than not, per kilowatt cost per energy, sometimes it's 12 to 14 times of your conventional energy, which makes it unviable for a lot of host countries to even purchase. Second challenge that people face more often, and the key driver is going to be about transmitting this energy to the right end user. primarily renewable energy needs to be made available to a lot of geographies which are high consumers of energy. Development happens in one side of
Hi, sorry, Karthik, are you there?
Could you hear me?
Oh, you froze for a few seconds.
See, this is a challenge with StreamYard. But nevertheless, the challenge is about availability of this technology, or I'm frozen again.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the next question. How can you decide if a company is socially responsible? And it's a very important question as well. Are the returns, ROI from socially responsible investments lower than the traditional investments? I'd like to ask Gary with this. Go with Gary with this question. Gary, we can't hear you.
Can you repeat it again?
Okay. So how can you decide if a company, how can we decide if a company is socially responsible? Number one, and are the returns from socially responsible investments lower than traditional investments?
Well, it depends on what a return is, right? If
Right.
you're about financial, or you're talking about the good of humanity. So it's really about, how you view it. And so from my perspective, in terms of, social responsibility, how do you determine? Well, you got to look at, what they have, how they're implementing it, who benefits from it, where it's located. I mean, it's not just one answer from my perspective. It's really this 360-degree view of it. And so it's, and who's going to benefit? Are you trying to make a little dent in humanity? Or are you trying to put just money in your pocket? That's probably the biggest thing from my perspective. But it's, if you look at it today, it's interesting. I talk to family offices all over the world, huge family offices. And, they really, really do want to do impact. And they do want to work in things like renewables and sustainability. I got to tell you, it's actually refreshing, because some of the richest people in the world are focused on trying to make a dent in the universe, because they understand how fragile our planet is today. And that if we don't do something in another 100 years, we're going to have some extremely serious problems.
Yeah. So that's the catch-22. I mean, are we looking for ROI, or are we looking for bringing an impact to the society, as Gary said? Harsh, what do you think? I mean, the startups in the space, are they worried because they might not have returns like the traditional investments, or the mindset is changing?
So as I mentioned, startups will have extreme difficulty in kind of raising funds for the sector, because the investors in the startup space, they look for quick returns, right? So unless we have government sponsorships, government grants to kind of fund the initial research and development. So Indian government particularly has provided some certain initiatives where you get $100,000 worth of grants, $250,000 worth of grants. These kind of grants are in place. These are very crucial to kind of ensure that at least in the early stage, during the product development stage, you can kind of sustain development of the product without relying too much on the outside investment. Additionally, as the point which Gary mentioned earlier as well, regarding family offices, right? Family offices, even I've kind of agreed that especially the ones which we look at, the super rich ones, like beyond 50 million, beyond 100 million kind of categories, they definitely look at very long-term outlook to ensure that the planet is on a more sustainable basis. They are doing a lot of charitable grants as well. We have these initiatives which I mentioned, like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They are doing a lot of that. So you need to do all of that, because startups, by their definition, the short-term returns which are required, those kind of investors, they won't participate in that. You'll require people who have the patience and who are looking to see at the long-term benefits of that. That is going to be crucial. At the same time, government needs to come up with a lot of other benefits in terms of tax benefits, right? I think William was mentioning those points as well. Without those tax benefits in terms of tax-free returns, when you get any upside of it, you're not taxed on that. And even when you put in investment over there, you get tax benefits. Those kind of tax benefits are going to be very crucial to get more and more people invested in this sector, without which it will be very difficult.
Yes, I agree, Harsh. Karthik, ROI in terms of profits or impact creation when it comes to investors?
So it depends who invests. If it's a typical startup who's raised a 2 to 3 million corpus, they would definitely be looking at an ROI, because that's what keeps them going and that's what keeps the investors coming to them. But if it's a large family office or a government-backed entity or a sovereign fund, then they would definitely be looking at impact, because then they would realize that once they develop something and patentize it over a 15-year, 20-year period, then the multiplier would come in at a very significant pace. So it depends on how deep pockets do you have. What part of the value chain are you associated with? Are you associated at the top of the value chain? If yes, you would have a reason to go all the way bottom. But if you are a part of the value chain, you would be dependent on the guy above you and below you, and hence you would want to make quick buck. So, but I would still be very skeptical of small startups getting into this space. I would love to be associated with large businesses here.
Great point. And yeah, no small early stage startups maybe in the space. Flo, what about you? Are you looking for more profits, or because you are a owner you are a founder as well of a token which is obviously backed by goodness. So
backed by goodness. Yeah, we're backed by traditional currency.
I love that. That is good.
That was interesting.
That's your tagline, Flo.
Backed by goodness. Yeah, so think about
It sounds like the Powerpuff Girls. Sounds like the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah, so we are in this comfortable situation.
You better not call it Tinkerbell, though.
Sorry, say that again?
You better not call it the Tinkerbell token, you know.
So yeah, sorry, back to your question. So, you know, we are in this more comfortable situation that we run a cryptocurrency, so we're producing the tokens, the money that we need. So as an organization, we're really not too much worried about our own profitability. You know, we're a cooperative nonprofit. We're like a central bank creating our own tokens, so we don't have to worry too much about profitability. But on the other side, we worry about our investors. So we give all our profits to our investors. The company doesn't keep any. And then our goal is to improve and measure sustainability in terms of the triple bottom line. The triple bottom line means the financial bottom line, which is how much profit we generate for our investors, not for the company. And then how much social impact we achieve. Our main project is universal basic income, and how much environmental impact we have. Our main project is carbon offset and reforestation, because we're in this situation now that, you know, one of the positive sides of Corona is, for the first time in history, our carbon footprint has gone down. So, you know, the government have done something. They locked everyone down, and whoops, the carbon emissions went down too. I didn't think that was what they really intended, but that was one of the side effects. But that's not enough. You know, we still have carbon levels which are way too high to be sustained for the future. So we have to think about getting the carbon out of the air. It's not just becoming carbon neutral, but it's getting it out. And there's a great technology out there that has been around for 350 million years, proven, and it's called trees. And they sequester trees and plants, other plants too, and they can take carbon out of the air and put it back in the ground where it belongs. And this is where I think, you know, we need to invest. And this is something where everyone can do something. Everyone can plant a tree, where there's so many different funds that allow you to offset your carbon footprint and invest into planting trees to take the carbon out of the air. So this is my point on sustainability. You know, as an investor over the last 10 years, I've always invested in smaller startups because they usually go faster. You have a higher risk, but it's a diversification of your portfolio. So I've also invested in SolarCity, Tesla, and these kind of major stocks, major players. And to be honest, I've made good return with it. So it's not the case that you have to wait 10, 20 years to get the return. Depends on what kind of investment you select, but you know, in some places I've made a return on investment in a very short time. So and it's getting better every year. So I disagree in general to say that, you know, if you invest in something sustainable, you have to invest in a big project. It has to be government funded and takes ages. That's not my experience as an investor.
That's good to know. Good to know. Thank you so much, Flo. William, what about you? So are you worried about not bringing in much return in terms of profits when you invest into agri-tech space or sustainable businesses, or, you know, anything to do with impact investments or vertical farming? So,
Okay, I think from our perspective, at the least, we try not to contribute to the carbon footprint. Okay, so if you look at the energy and if you look at a vertical farm, these two different business provide two different ROI. Okay, the vertical farm ROI is pretty fast. That will take around 3 to 4 years, depending on what kind of scale we are looking at. All right, and that we can scale up very fast because once we reach the optimal point, investors will come, right? On the other hand, solar is very long term, and you can say once you build the solar panel, it's there, right? And due to technology advancement, the solar panels are able to absorb more energy now, right? And if you look at even Tesla are
Only
trying to
on
do
those
solar.
commercial options which will sell. You have the portal file with you. Let me know if you need any help to go through it.
Sorry.
sorry, can somebody go on mute? Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
So if you talk about ROI, I think the investor will have a mixed portfolio. Okay, if you look at all the investors, some want stable portfolio, some they want more aggressive portfolio. Okay, so we do advise family office on where to put investment, and we are active fund managers. That means we invest in projects that is generating income or trying to maximize wealth. All right, but if you look at impact investment or sustainable finance, okay, then they come with a different agenda. All right, look, a lot of impact funds, their requirement or their ROI is slightly lower than the typical PE. Okay, because they know that responsible investing, they talk about impact investment. So there's a lot of new funds that go towards ESG investments. If you look at, for example, in Bursa Malaysia, our stock exchange, every now and then they actually promote the ESG investments. Today, I received a new mutual fund that only invests in ESG portfolio. They are raising probably R1 billion to invest in stocks that only that comply with ESG. Okay, and Bursa Malaysia has implemented a new initiative where alongside the annual report, they have to produce a governance report as well, not just on corporate governance, but also on the environmental governance. Okay, governance. Sorry. So there's a lot of opportunity in this space, but at the end, it also depends on the investment preference. Right. So if you look at solar, bonds and pension funds will love it. Right? But if you look at vertical farming, business investment or business investor will love it. So it all depends on the investment appetite.
Yeah, thank you, William. Maxime, do you have any further questions for our speakers?
No, my side, no any questions.
We hear some noise in the background.
No, any questions?
Okay.
No, any questions from my side. Sorry.
Okay, great. So let's take some closing remarks. We've got a few more minutes. So, Flo, let's start with you because you are on the both sides of the coin. So what's the future for impact sustainable investments? Because we have a lot of founders as well who are keen to work with us. They're looking to fundraise as well. Related to the pandemic itself, and I have seen the pitch decks, I've seen the presentation. I mean, good thoughts, noble ideas. So what's your advice for them? What should they do to fundraise in this new reality? And with the closing remarks for the show, VCTV.
Yeah, I think we are in this new world now, this new age, this new reality. In terms of funding, some due to the crisis, some budgets will be less. But what a system that really works well, and which is very common now in the crypto space, is crowdfunding.
Yeah.
We have these crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, which have been good jobs. Where also I have invested a lot of smaller startups in the beginning, and with a lot of people, even if you donate $100 or $200 or euros, you can get a lot in the end to kick off a project. The few millions that even more expensive projects need to get this the solution off the ground. Yeah, and in the crypto space, you see a lot of companies providing tokens, offering tokens, which is another way of crowdfunding. Usually people can buy tokens to invest in a project or product that will be released in a later stage. So a much better way of funding than in the past, where you usually have tried to find some big investors, get some big money, and then investors will take roles in your company and make decisions which are not necessarily always in line with the values and the vision of the founders. So token and crowdfunding investment, I think, is a good way in the future, and we see more and more of this. And for my side too, I've changed my strategy as well. Like with Neko, we're doing crowdfunding rather than the traditional approach I've done in the past, and I feel that this is working much better and it's more reliable in terms of what's coming in. And yeah, in terms of the show, Sonny, thank you so much again for the invite. And I'm happy today for the first time that we have been two moderators, Sonny and Maxime. It's been a pleasure seeing Gary again, as always, and William with all his details and with his amazing projects. The vertical gardening is something that I also find super interesting. So as I said, I feel like the areas that I'm drawn to in terms of investment is solar, and agriculture and vertical farming is one of them. So what William is doing, in my opinion, has a very good value. So happy to be here on this show again. I will be off for the next 2 weeks, but hope that I can join back in the next months. Thank you, Son.
Sure. Thank you so much, Flo. I will love to have you back next month. Harsh, again, as you mentioned, obviously this is not an easy space for startups to raise a lot of money or make a lot of profits. So what's your advice to the founders that you know, for example, they come to our ventures with this idea, and what's your advice to them, and the closing remarks as well along with that? Thank you.
Thanks. So definitely you need a lot of academic support in building this, right? As a lone founder, if you try to do about it individually, it's going to be very difficult. You partner with academic institutions who are partnered with government organizations. It makes things a lot easier. I personally work with a couple of incubators here, and I can tell you the difference if you partner with an academic institution like an IIT Bombay or a Somaya College. It's completely different, right? So partner with them. They can get you a lot of resources. They can get you into grants. They can get you a lot of funding, and all those are in the form of grants, right? So it's not like you're diluting yourself too much, and it also gives you a runway. You're not under the deadline that you need to give returns to the investors within the next 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, right? So that is a comfortable environment where startups can look at. And right now there's plenty of opportunity in this space. You can look at solar, you can look at lithium batteries, you can look at agriculture. Agriculture was a very crucial point, which Flo mentioned, right? You look at the environmental impact of beef farming, cattle farming, and other fisheries and other poultry farming, etc. Fixing all those, the amount of opportunity which is there in this space, I cannot even begin to describe how huge it is, right? So
Yeah.
just pick a sector which you're good with, you're comfortable with, partner with these academic institutions, and they'll definitely be able to help you, take it to the next level. And as far as the closing remarks for the session go, really glad to always be here. Glad to see Gary, Karthik as always, William and Flo for the first time today over here. Great to meet you as well.
Great.
And you as well, Sonny. Can't forget you.
Thank you. Awesome. Next, I have William. William, because you have so much experience in this space, talking about agri-tech, be it solar energy, be it smart city. So, what's your best advice for the startups founders who are looking to actually raising next round, so maybe seed round as well? So, how should they differentiate themselves from others to be in the game? And followed up by the closing remarks. Thank you.
So technically, if you ask me the same question exactly 1 year ago, I will be able to answer it, because I'll be traveling around raising funds, doing IPO, right? But because I'm stuck in KL, I start to talk to my friends. We are thinking about future, and people become more thoughtful, okay, and start to look around you, okay. For example, I start to enjoy my neighborhood, for example, right? And then I discover, okay, there's a lot of shortfall. There's not enough trees, for example, right? Why is people cutting down trees around my neighborhood? Okay, so I think for startup, for seed, there's a lot of opportunity, just walking out from your door, take a walk to the neighborhood, looking at the environment around you, 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, right? And you will find opportunities, right? We look at if you look at landscaping company, they are doing very well this year, right? If you look at sustainable food processing, okay, that is a sector where SMEs or small business can go into, right? A lot of people are promoting plant-based food. That doesn't require a lot of capital expenditure, right? Of course, if you go into solar or you go into bio mass, biothermal, or even vertical farm, these are capex heavy. But if you're looking at starting up, you should look at those supporting services and logistics services to those industries. I think that has a lot of opportunity in that sector. Thank you.
Great advice, William. Great advice from you.
Of course, really nice meeting Sonny, and of course Gary, the Karthik, Harsh, and Flo. Right, I think we find many good friends and also people who think alike. Okay, I wish that we can travel. I can meet you in person soon.
Yes, absolutely. That's the next step. VCTV going,
Yeah, I might do my next token offering on LATOKEN.
Thank you so much. I was so happy and excited. Sorry about that. Thank you, William, for that. Karthik, over to you. Advice for startups, founders. But as I said, we are seeing a lot in the space. So, what's your best advice to be, different from others in fundraising? And your closing remarks, please, as well.
So there's always going to be a lot of dollars in this space. Dollars with governments, dollars with sovereign funds, dollars with statutory bodies, dollars with large organizations. Everybody wants to invest dollars. They are very short of people who would want to make success of these dollars in the right manner or create an impact. If I was a billion-dollar business and if I had 100 million to invest in this space, I would need not only the dollars, but a right startup who would go and take this story down the hill and convert it into a sustainable business. So there's always going to be a dearth of talent coming in this space, and hence you need to find the right coattail to latch on to, which means you need to get associated with the right government, right body, right statutory organization, and more importantly, come in with a long haul. Quick multipliers are not going to happen, but when the multipliers happen, it's going to be a huge change. Come in with an intent to democratize and create an impact, especially in geographies or regions that are short of energy, short of sustainable lifestyle, and short of growth, and you would see business coming out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And what's your feedback about VCTV, Karthik?
62 episodes, you still ask me feedback. I'm sure with 620, I'll give you a better feedback. But I would say it's always been a pleasure with all of you, and especially with so many people around. I think there's a lot of learning that comes through for all of us, and happy to support startups, happy to support investment ecosystems. There are 4 startups that have come in from this route that are already engaging and talking to me. So it's an absolute pleasure.
Great. Number speaks for itself. I'm not going to ask that question to Gary now.
Gary is going to change the name to Gary TV very soon. I'm sure, guys. It's going to become Gary TV now.
Gary, hi Gary. So what's the one recipe for a small startup, just for instance, in Asia or an emerging market in the space to go global? Gary, we can't hear you.
He's on mute.
Yeah, so I mean the recipe is, you go through 3 stages. You go through acceleration, you go through regional dominance, and then you go to global. And, it's each one of those stages offer hurdles that need to be overcome. But if I've talked to a lot of folks. I had a conversation with the right-hand person for Murdoch, and he said, you need to have, he studied 3,000 entrepreneurs. And the one thing that came out is, I asked, what's the top thing that you see? And he said, amnesia. They don't talk about the past. They don't let the past hold them back. And so it's really important to look at the today and the future. Right. So I would say that advice, doing a startup is not easy. I've done 17, and there's ups and downs, ins and out. And it's about holding together, finding a co-founder that's on the same page and you can trust. And, it's like being married. It's like there's ups and downs, ins and outs. And the key is to get through it. And if you need to pivot. So, and pivot's not failure. It's just making another turn. So in terms of VCTV, I mean, I'm doing a SPAC because I met some of the richest people in the world through VCTV. I told you yesterday I talked to one of the Bitcoin whales. Herman personally talked to him at his house in Dubai, who's involved in Ethernet 2.0, and he's got 1 million Bitcoins. So I mean, it's really opened up an entirely new world, and it's just what we talked about 3 months ago, right? It's becoming a reality. And the beauty of having friends, Harsh, William, Maxim, Flo, yourself, it's having these connections that we wouldn't have normally had before. Because one thing somebody said is that, I was William, walking down the street and planting trees. Well, we're much more introspective today than we were before. And I would say much more compassionate because we understand our vulnerabilities, which we passed by a year and a half ago, but we understand that life is fleeting and it can change in 2 weeks, right? With COVID. So you better enjoy what you have, and happiness is the most important thing.
Yes, we all like that closing remark, happiness. Thank you so much, Gary. Thank you, Flo. Thank you, Harsh. Thank you, William. And thank you, Maxime, for co-moderating as well with me. So yes, I always enjoy moderating and speaking to all of you. Again, speakers, investors who are looking to join, Gary, William, Harsh, Flo, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to have you on our panel. We already have a lot of startups showing interest, coming into the shows and pitching their company. So yes, we are on the track. So viewers, feel free to send us feedback, and we're going to work on that. Thank you for being with us this year as well. So yes, I'll be back tomorrow again on another topic, another set of speakers. Till then, keep watching VCTV and take care of yourself and be happy. Thank you. Bye.